Thank you. Okay, kicking right off with the item number 3A, public hearing CDBG Coos County Emergency Child Care Assistance Grant Program 1A2209. Counselor?
We have a public hearing and we have a member from
Very good. Thank you. We don't, come on up. I'm sorry, we don't have the podium up today, so we'll just have a seat and use the microphone there. Introduce yourself. Thank you.
Sure. And I can give just sort of a brief description. I believe this is a hearing that's required to close out the process of having received this grant. One of the requirements is we have to read the public notice of the hearing into the minutes, into the record. And we can have a copy of that.
Correct.
Good.
Good morning, Commissioner Taylor. Good morning, Commissioner Sweet. My name is...
Just slide it closer. There you go. Good.
No one besides us will hear you, and we're very...
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, good, good.
My name is Janet Tidrick. I am the Senior Community and Economic Development Specialist for CCD Business Development Corporation. We are the Economic Development District for Douglas, Coos, and Curry counties.
Good morning, Jane.
Good morning. We're here to talk about the Emergency Regional Child Care Assistance Program that was awarded to Coos County August 11th of 2022. This was a Community Development Block Grant using CARES, Corona Aid Relief and Economic Security Act money. Coos County was the lead applicant for this grant after signing an intergovernmental agreement with both Curry and Douglas counties in May of 2022. CCD and South Coast Business Employment Corporation were the co-administrators of this grant. Contracts between Business Oregon and Coos County were signed in September of 2022. After an amendment, the funds were allocated as follows: tuition assistance, $68,000; access expansion, $397,000; grant administration, $35,000, for a total of $500,000. The scope of the grant was as follows: providing voucher based assistance to COVID-19 affected low to moderate income families. It will allow parents to return or obtain work, offset the cost of working outside the home, and provide additional opportunities for families otherwise unable to afford child care. The voucher-based assistance would benefit 100% of low to moderate income as allowed under the Section 105A of the Housing and Community Development Act, or providing assistance with direct costs associated with provision of new or existing child care programs, which formation was a byproduct of the pandemic. The assistance provided new and existing child care programs to benefit at least 51% of low to moderate income families as allowed under Section 105A of the Housing and Community Development Act. After the final disbursement request, $6,553 was spent for tuition assistance, $39,218 was spent for access expansion, and $22,679 was spent on administration. 4 jobs were created, retained, and 8 children were assisted. From the South Coast Business Employment Corporation, lesson learned. During the same period that the CDBG grant was released, there were multiple other funding opportunities available, including grants from Western Oregon University, Seeding Justice, and a local grant from Coquille Wellness Center. All supported sustainability and expansion of programs. In addition, the Oregon Employment-Related Daycare Program expanded eligibility, allowing more flexibility and qualifications for assistance, which dismissed the need for vouchers. The expansion grant was designed as reimbursement funding, and child care providers that initially showed interest felt that it would be difficult for them to cover salaries and tuition costs while waiting for the compensation. As the program neared its end, Quebec expressed its desire to discontinue the program rather than extend it. Coos County and CCD agreed, and while the grant was very well intentioned, as Quebec stated, many of the programs with faster reimbursement times or upfront payments for child care providers proved difficult to compete with for the same low to moderate income client base. Do you have any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. I don't know, do you want me to read the minutes in?
Unless there were questions from the
Yeah,
commissioners.
yeah, I think that we could probably go ahead and read this in, and then if we have any questions, we could pose them after that. That would be
Okay.
fine. Yeah, thank you.
Had I known I was reading this, and this would be much bigger font. Second public hearing notice, Coos County Board of Commissioners is completing a final report for a project funded with Community Development Block Grant funds from the Oregon Business Development Department. The location of the project is Coos County, Oregon. It is estimated that the project has benefited at least 8 persons, of whom 100% are low or moderate income. Coos County has completed an application for a 2021 Community Development Block Grant from Business Oregon for the Coos, Curry, and Douglas County Emergency Child Care Assistant Grant Program. The program was offered through Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties to provide child care to low and moderate income kids to allow parents to return back to work and that met the program requirements. Public hearing will be held by the Coos County Board of Commissioners on November 7th during the regular board meeting of Commissioners meeting, which starts at 9:30 in the Owen Building Large Conference Room, 201 North Adams Street, Coquille. Purpose of this hearing is for the Coos County Board of Commissioners to obtain a citizen's views and respond to questions and comments as well about COVID-19 emergency child care related assistance project. Public hearing is open to the public as well as virtual. Written comments are also welcome and must be received by October 23rd. Attention Bobby Brooks, Coos County Board of Commissioners, 225 North Adams Street, Coquille, Oregon, 97423. Both oral and written comments will be considered by the Coos County Board of Commissioners. The location of the hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. Please contact Bobby Brooks at the office of the Coos County Board of Commissioners at 541-396-7535 if you will need any special accommodations to attend or participate in the meeting. More information about the Oregon Community Development Block Grants, the project, and public records about the county's past use of Community Development Block Grants funds are available for public review at the Office of Legal Counsel located behind the Office of the Coos County Board of Commissioners in the Owen Building, 225 North Adams Street, Coquille, Oregon, 97423 during regular office hours. Advance notice is required. Please call 541-396-7690 to schedule an appointment. If special accommodations are needed, please notify Michelle Wellington, Legal Office Manager, at 541-396-7690 so that appropriate assistance can be provided.
All right, very good. Commissioner Sweet, anything?
Long, did we receive any comments? And will we open it up to comments?
We do. I thought I would ask you if you had, okay. And I don't have any members of the public have any questions or comments on this process? No? Okay, well, this doesn't require a vote. This just needed to be read into the record, which has been done, and so we're completed with that. Thank you very much, Janet.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to department heads agenda items. First up, 4A, the Life-Saving Award for Deputy Robert Baker. Captain Sanborn.
Good morning.
Those of you that don't know him, this is Deputy Baker. He is the backbone of our marine law enforcement and recreational public safety programs at the Sheriff's Office, and he's here today to be recognized by the State Marine Board.
Great. And I'm Larry Warren. I'm the director of the Oregon State Marine Board. The Oregon State Marine Board is charged as Larry said, I'm Val Early. I'm from Brookings, and I have been on the Marine Board for quite some time. I am one of the 5 members of the governor-appointed board, and our mission is to provide boating safety for recreational boaters throughout the state of Oregon, and we cannot do it without law enforcement. We can't do it without our Marine deputies being out there. And so we appreciate very much that that Sergeant Matt Smith nominated Deputy Robert Baker. What happened? The circumstances on July 14th, 2023, while patrolling on 10 Mile Lakes in the sheriff's office vessel, Deputy Robert Baker came upon a capsized sailboat with the operator clinging to it in the water. The operator, later identified as Ronald Nordquist, was not wearing a PFD and was struggling. Deputy Baker assisted the operator out of the water and to the shore. After he was safely out of the water, Deputy Baker was able to recover the sailboat and assist with towing it back to the North Lake Marina, where he continued to assist with dewatering of the boat. Mr. Nordquist had PFDs aboard, but was not wearing one at the time of the incident. Deputy Baker's quick and professional actions likely saved Mr. Nordquist from drowning. Deputy Baker had the opportunity to educate Mr. Nordquist on the importance of wearing a PFD while underway, and no injuries occurred. Without Deputy Baker's quick thinking, coordination, and action, this incident could have had a tragic ending. So on behalf of your community that you help to keep safe, and the Marine Board, I'm presenting you with a life-saving award today.
Very good.
Like to throw your hand and shake it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in order to make this final and official, there is an action requested. I move the board approve the resolution of life-saving commendation for Deputy Baker. It'd be a little late to take it back now anyway. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Deputy Baker, for your amazing work. And all of you members of the Sheriff's Department, we love our law enforcement, and we love the way you guys do it. Thank you very much. Okay, 4B, update on a mosquito problem. Mike, Rick, and Anthony, good morning.
Commissioners. So I know Bob isn't here. He asked us to come and give an update on mosquitoes. Okay. Sounds good. So a few weeks ago, we had a meeting with the board over the mosquito problem in Coquille, and I think it was a pretty productive meeting. And we came away with some kind of a plan to implement in the future for the mosquito problem here in Coquille. What we kind of came up with is the flood irrigation may be a problem, and we're going to see if we can address that. If that is the problem, that will hopefully solve most of our mosquito problems. If it isn't the flood irrigation, then we also have a plan in place that we are going to sample the mosquitoes, find out what kind of mosquitoes there are. We're going to talk to ODF&W about the BTI pesticides that we can get. We're going to try to, once we hire our grant writer, see if we can get some grants for that BTI to be put out there to address the mosquitoes. we are going to survey. We had an area that Bob circled that we got 400 residents of. We were going to send out a survey for them to report on how their mosquito problem was, so we can see if we can pinpoint the areas. Once we started that with the assessor, apparently the deputy assessor said it was pretty bad in the city of Coquille. So he gave us an additional 1,700 names in the city of Coquille, so we will probably do all 2,100 people on the survey. We will give them option to bring a paper survey back to here in this location, probably Bobby. We will have an electronic version, and we will have someone on the phone that they can call and talk to. There was some other things that I think the commissioners or Bob himself was going to work on, like the beaver issue and the standing water that had to do with that. But part of what we were going to update today was Rick was going to go over some of the information that we've gathered, as well as what type of mosquitoes we found in previous samplings.
Okay, very good. What do you got, Rick?
So in past years, around Coquille, we've identified 5 different species. The one of public health interest, the genus of public health interest would be the Culex mosquito, and there are 2 species here in Coquille that we've identified. One is Culex tarsalis, the other is Culex pipiens. I know you're going to remember those names. The tarsalis has a 2.5 mile fly radius. The pipiens 1.5 miles. Those of you that hear the mosquito buzzing, just FYI, that's the pipiens. They're not very sneaky. Then there's a couple Culicida genus called Ornata and Incidens, and those guys fly a lot further. They're not as mean as the Culex, but number 5 is the mean one, and we call it the floodwater mosquito. So this guy lays eggs in the mud. She lays eggs in the mud, and the eggs need to dry out. And these eggs can stay dry for decades. And so when we flood an area, natural disaster or mistake, they get wet again, and if the water is warm, those mosquitoes, those eggs become mosquitoes. So they are very aggressive. People who really get crazy about mosquitoes can hold them in your hand. If you wear the magnifiers, you can see rings around their legs. That's the easiest mosquito to identify, is this Vexens. What a nice name.
So when these eggs are laid in the mud and then they go through a dry season, they dry out, you had the caveat that the rehydration needed to be warm. What happens if they're rehydrated in the winter with cold water?
They just float.
And they endure that cyclical dry and hydration without any problem?
Yeah, there's other stuff that goes on, but just sitting there in the water, they'll just stay there until it's warm. Then that's friendly.
Are they freeze-thaw stable?
These guys are all over the world, every continent except Antarctica.
Okay.
And so they are very smart, wrong word, but they are very adaptive. So, yeah.
This is another species of the same genus that
Tortured us and
Twice
abandoned.
abandoned.
Yes. Yep, they're cousins.
they're vicious. 80s, is it not right?
True. 80s.
That was the Dorsalis, 80s
fix it, yep. So, the abandoned marsh property, I want to talk about for a minute that, these guys that work for the county and the contractors, they're out on that property every day through the summer looking at what's in the water. And mosquito larvae have a 5-stage growth cycle. And when they get to about the 3rd stage, that's when treatment was happening on the marsh. And so we are anxious to get a guy out to look at the ground and the water standing on the ground to do something similar. So when that survey goes out, we hope we hear a lot of response of people that are interested in allowing somebody on their private property. It could be an opportunity to say, hey, you've got a mosquito pool here. Not that we're gonna fix it for everybody, but it gives the property owner a chance to say, oh, I see, and maybe they'll be willing to do something. But we have hundreds and hundreds of wet ground that follows the Coquille River. So we're anxious to get out there and get some permission and to do some active monitoring, do some trapping, see what we got.
And the permission seeking, is that gonna be included in the initial contact kind of generically? Or are you gonna target specific property owners and approach them directly?
I think that I have to knock on the guy's door and talk to him face to face.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's gonna respond to a piece of paper saying, let me invade your property, I'm the
Right.
government, I'm here to help.
Right.
But we do have a question on our
Yeah.
survey that will give us an idea if they're willing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, and if you determine that, that it might be helpful to have somebody else along on those visits to try to procure that access, if a commissioner's presence would be helpful for that, please let me know.
Very good.
Ron, we have some citizens that are here that have experience with mosquito issues, there they'd like to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that absolutely is appropriate. Are you more or less done at this stage?
I think that covers the basis that we wanted to talk
Okay.
about, what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and open it up to comments. You can come on up and engage up here. Normal public comment sort of protocol. Introduce yourself and have.
You wanna hand the speaker over to Krista so she can be heard by everyone?
My name is Cinda Arney, and I live 3 miles, is that good enough? I live 3 miles north of Coquille on Fernwood Road. I have a bunch of neighbors who came with me today to get your input and to voice our concern. Since July of this year, and this is not the first time, this happened 4 years ago, but since July through just recently, we haven't been able to go outside and enjoy our property. I mean, it's just been incredible, and completely unacceptable. Just something has to happen. So my concern is, and I love what I'm hearing, and I'm glad to see that there's a proactive move to do something about it. My concern is if you, let's say that you are going to treat them on the ground, which is what they did in Bandon and had some huge success with that, where does the funding come from for that?
Exactly, and that's where we're looking for grants to cover that.
Okay, all right, good. Well, you guys can come to my house anytime, you can come live there if you like, if that's what it takes to get it taken care of, because not only is it a health issue and just a nuisance issue, but certainly affects, property values as well. It's just, if I can be of help, I wanna know how I can do that. I know my neighbors feel exactly the same way. So if there's a way to get publicly involved, we sure wanna do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, you come on up and,
My name's Tim Triggs. I live in North Bank. That's Tim Triggs.
good
Tim,
morning.
wait until you get there so that the speaker picks it up for the
My
record.
name's Tim Triggs from North Bend, and I've been listening to this concern, and I hope you guys do absolutely nothing. Mosquitoes are a natural process. If somebody has a concern at their own home with the mosquito issue, there's pest control companies that will take care of that. And to see that something like this much time has been spent on this topic, as a citizen of this county, I'm confused. Thank you.
All right, that's a comment. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, please.
You came on my property and we did that test.
Years ago.
Yes. Hello, my name's Nora Dara, and actually he came on my property to do the testing, how many years ago? I think, was it three or four? And it's increased, it's severe, it's probably tripled since he's been to the property. But my concern is, and I appreciate everybody's input, but I have a handicapped brother who lives with me, lives with my husband and I. And health reasons, it's very concerning when I have to take him out and load him in the car, and he's in a wheelchair, and he has a lot of health problems. And my concern is, what do these things carry? I mean, what is the outcome? What kind of illnesses can we get? How does it maybe worsen, our immune systems, or is there any study on what these things can do if they're?
Sure. So today, we don't have any documentation of any mosquito-borne illness in Coos County. But that's just luck, in my opinion. So West Nile virus is scattered around the state, Douglas County, Jackson County. So someday it will get here. Some bird will bring it across the mountains or up the California coast, and it'll get here. And it has a variety of symptoms that are bad for all of us, not alone somebody who's already has a lot of restrictions. The neurological stuff is difficult to deal with. And so it is possible for other diseases to migrate here too, but that is probably the number one concern that could get here in years to come.
I just wanted to address that part of it, but thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, this item does not require a vote. It's just an informational update. Thank you, gentlemen, for your work. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. And we'll look forward to the next update on this and eliminating that problem. Okay. Moving on to 4C, use funds for workforce retention payments through intergovernmental agreements, numbers 179697 and 180006. Mr. Rowley.
Yeah, so I was going to give a little history of these retention payments. In about 2021, House Bill 2949 created the Behavioral Health Workforce Initiative and was refined in House Bill 4701. This was due to actually a crisis in lack of providers in the behavioral health field. So it started in 2021, and it's still going as we speak today. House Bill 4004 was a workforce stability grant which we received in 2022 for the exact same reasons as we're here today, for behavioral healthcare workforce shortage, provided funds for staff compensation, workforce retention, and recruitment. And we made these similar payments last year and the year before. In June of this year, we got a new grant that's tied to the Behavioral Health Workforce Initiative for supervision, recruitment, and retention. So it's basically the same thing. And there is a current House Bill, 2235, in the works to establish a work group to study the major barriers to workforce recruitment and retention in a publicly financed behavioral health system. And what they're reviewing is Oregon is near the very bottom in the U.S. for access to behavioral health, high turnover of certified and licensed and unlicensed professionals in the behavioral health services. The demand is really greater than supply right now, and burnout is a problem for behavioral health workforce. Low pay, administrative burden, high volume, high needs of clients are why providers are leaving the field, and many providers leave community-based behavioral health, which is what we are, to go into private practice where they have lower acuity clients and better control of their caseloads. For public health, the modernization funds has the same and similar language where it is for recruitment and retention of staff. That's program element 51. And so a lot of rural public health departments are seeing recruitment and retention issues as well. So we are requesting permission to pay out workforce retention payments out of these funds. These are state funds. These workforce initiative funds are for a very specific purpose, which is what the state had determined, recruitment, retention, and supervision. We've used these funds for moving allowances, signing bonuses, staff appreciation, wellness coaching, increased advertising, and retention payments.
Okay. We have a motion?
I move to approve the use of state funds for workforce retention not to exceed $180,000 in this fiscal year.
Yes.
Through intergovernmental agreements number 179697 and 180006.
I will second. It occurs to me that workforce retention is obviously not a problem that affects only health and wellness. It affects all county departments. And while I see the need and value for this, I also need to express sensitivity to all the other county departments that are suffering the same challenges, and yet the employees in those departments don't have access to these state funds to bolster their income with retention payments. And so, I mean, that's not a reality that we can alter sitting here today, and certainly that is not a reason to deny the health and wellness employees these retention payments, but it is to recognize that, that many employees of the county, could really use a little extra. Who couldn't in these days of unprecedented inflation that shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon? So, we can't really fix that today, but I do need to really acknowledge it. And I hope that those health and wellness employees receiving these retention payments will think about sharing them with all the other employees. You think? No, maybe not. All right. So, I guess it would be really great if we could find the funds to do this for everybody, and it does seem a little bit, I mean, not to take anything away from health and wellness, all due respect, but it does seem a little imbalanced, you know, to provide this benefit to one class of employee, but not to all the others. Again, it's not a reason to vote against it,
To that end, I'd like some clarification when you're done.
yeah, please.
You know, we do have a thing called pay equity, which means that if you, for certain skills and certain job duties, we have some semblance of equitable pay throughout the county, regardless of department. I assume that these dollars will go to people who are working specifically in health-oriented delivery systems, not just, you know, we have some, for lack of a better word, clerical positions in all departments. And I can see that if that people of that, doing that type of work are paid out of this money, it creates a problem for the rest of the county. You know, we don't have a lot of people, for instance, in roads that are delivering health services, nor in public health do we have people that are running road equipment. So these pay equities don't bridge those differences. So can you help me with that a little bit?
This
And
is
then I'd like to
for-
hear from our HR person as well.
Yes, so this would be for our entire staff, county staff, not part-time help. And Carolyn, do you?
Good morning,
Morning.
Good morning.
Caroline Morgan. So pay equity is very complicated, and what we don't want to do is confuse the pay equity law that we currently work under with just compensation. Pay equity is all about equal work for equal people, and we can receive claims, but those claims would have to be proven that they were receiving unequal pay based on a bona fide reason. And quite often that reason, as a classic example, is, all right, you have two employees who are doing comparable work, but one's a male and one's a female. And so what we're looking at is there a reason why the female is being paid less than the male? And, you know, could that be a claim that could come against us in the future? Or just as an example, that's what we're thinking about with pay equity. So it doesn't just encompass, you know, one person making more than another in the same classification, unless a claim can be brought that there was a reason for that. So it gets a little bit more complicated, and we can certainly go into that in more detail. And pay equity is an ongoing study that our office continues to do and maintain. Oh,
Let me give you a hypothetical, maybe a bit ridiculous. But let's say we had a ditch digger working for our maintenance department and a ditch digger working at Coos Health and Wellness. And the Coos Health and Wellness ditch digger gets paid 20% more than the other one. Is that a risk? I mean, I know you don't have ditch diggers, but you have people that, I hope you can get to my point. All right, because we simply can't afford increases.
Right.
We had a huge deficit last year in our general fund. And if we're favoring ditch diggers or whatever job description that we have in common that your department and say other departments have in common, if we're paying your people the same more to do the same work, that's not good for us. I don't know how we're gonna survive that.
So to answer your question, we would have to look at a couple of things. I mean, every department has its nuances. Some departments get to work a 4-10 schedule, some get to work a 9 schedule, some get to leave, you know, have more flexible hours. Some departments get some flexibility of working from home a couple of days a week. And so, you know, yes, in your hypothetical, that could be an issue, absolutely, but then, you know, you have to look at a lot of different variables. And so, you know, does the ditch digger who works for a different department have some other type of benefit or compensation? Do they work at better location? Do they have better hours? Do they, you know, so when we look at pay equity, we look at everything. We look at location, pay, benefits, compensation. We take care of all of that. So theoretically, yes, apples to apples, yes, but would have to go into it with a lot more depth than just comparing one apple to another
I'm to
apple.
the point, I guess we have to assume a risk that we need to do this in order to keep our public health department functioning. And the risk might be that there'll be some other increases that will be very difficult to afford in other departments of the county.
I'd like to point out if this is helpful or not, I don't know, but it's not just us in Coos County, it's across Oregon. So all of our counties would be having the same discussion, I would assume.
It's worse than our funding amongst the
Yeah.
worst of the,
Yeah. Yeah.
the counties in the state.
Yeah, that's
And-
right. Many of those counties actually don't have fiscal problems that we have.
Right.
All right, I'm ready for the question. I'm going to vote aye.
Yeah, all right. So it's just, you know, it's unfortunate that this is gonna come across as kind of unfair to a lot of employees, but I do acknowledge points that you've made as well, Caroline, so.
Certainly. And I did obviously run this by the ASME union. It seems to me that state funding runs in cycles, and currently state seems to be putting a lot of money towards healthcare. Whereas when I started with the county 9 years ago, it seemed to me that a lot of state funding was perhaps not in healthcare, but in other departments. So it does seem to go through some kind of cycles, and right now it does seem like there's a lot of money being funneled towards the healthcare industry. And
Any public comment before we vote? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward and introduce yourself, get your name and comments on the record.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is more a question for you, since I'm rather new to.
Ma'am, we need your name for the record.
I'm sorry.
We need your name and
I'm
home.
a secret person.
Pardon?
Sandra Woodside.
Thanks, Sandra.
Sorry. Again, more of a question about how state funding works, because my assumption is the state is allocating funds out to counties. The counties then allocate funds out to the different agencies that you have working for you.
Not necessarily the way it works.
So, okay.
That's not exactly how it works.
It does kind of work that way, but there are strings tied to that funding. So the federal, as far as health goes, the money starts from the federal government. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. It goes to the states, to each state. Our state takes a little share of that, and then they send some of that down to us.
Okay,
And for specific purposes, we can't use money coming from Medicare to fund our jail. We have to use it for Coos Health and Wellness services.
So I guess the answer to my question then leads to the comment, which is, if funds come allocated with specific contingencies, and they can only be used for those purposes, then to make a comparison, and it's unfortunate that Health and Human Services is getting more money than some other agency, has more to do, as you kind of pointed out, with a different level of discussion to find the funding for these other agencies.
That's right.
Whether that's from the state or from the federal government as they come in. So to make an unfair comparison sets up kind of a competition between people to say, well, they're getting all the money and you're not getting anything. And I think we have enough contention already, so we don't need to feed that.
Right,
We need to stay, we need to stay focused on how do we improve funding that we need within the county.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely salient points. However, and the point of bringing up the disparity is not to engender discontent, it's to acknowledge what is going to be noted in a public meeting. People will watch this meeting and see what's happening, and we need to proactively address perceived potential issues that'll come as a result of the decisions that we make here.
Yes, Commissioner Taylor, and I appreciate that aspect of what you've done this morning as well.
Thank you.
I do believe we need to acknowledge that there are individuals within our county who are hurting, who do not have enough
That's right.
a livable income, if you will.
That's right.
And then it's incumbent upon you, the commissioners, other elected officials, to help us get the economic support that we need.
Right.
I remind you, it generally comes from the taxpayer. So there's little that the commissioners can do on their very own.
Well, I understand that, and I do pay my taxes, so.
I'm sure you do.
And this is an ideal moment for me to revisit once again the fact that Coos County receives in external government funding something on the order of $90 million a year, something like that, from federal and state sources. That is all derived, that all comes from tax money that has been paid to that federal and state government. And so that 90 million comes back to us, and the people of Coos County in 2020 paid federal income taxes of $223 million. So that's not a very good return on our investment, even when you consider the legitimate functions of the federal government. The slice that's taken off before it comes back to us is really significant. Any other public comments?
I will remind you that we also have things like national defense that are important to
Point
fund.
stipulated, and exactly what I was referring to. So, point stipulated. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4D, release agreement from Coos Health and Wellness. Mr. Rowley.
Yeah, so this is a release agreement for a compensation payment that was missed about, I think for about 10 years. It's more of a legal document.
So the county employees are able to earn longevity in 4 different times. And how they earn that longevity has a lot of different factors. It's dependent on whether you're in a union or not in a union, you're in management currently. And as you know, we have 7 unions, and they all have their different set of rules of how you gain longevity. And then if you are in a union and you gain longevity, and then you switch to a management position, because we do like to sometimes promote from within, sometimes the clock can reset with your longevity. So this individual did receive a promotion to a management position in 2008, and this individual already had some longevity that she had earned throughout that time. So unless you actually go back and do the research to figure out how that longevity got on there, you wouldn't necessarily know how it was there. So the person already had longevity, and then at some point in 2013 was due another longevity increase, but that payment, that increase 10 years ago was missed, and so here we are today. Now, since then, that person already received another longevity increase for one of the other 3 multitude of reasons, and then just recently we did discover that one of those longevity increases that was due in 2013 was missed, and then that would have triggered another one in 2018. And so here we are today, and we're just trying to make it right with this employee.
Okay, get to the right piece of paper here. I move we approve the release agreement with Catherine Cooley and authorize the chair to sign the agreement.
Second. And I'll just comment that, I think that if I'm doing business with a certain entity and I'm entitled to a certain price level, let's say, because of some qualification that I have, but I fail to realize that and fail to take advantage of it, how do I then go back and try to reclaim some of that discount? That money's already gone. It's water under the bridge. It's disappeared. I'm not suggesting that this shouldn't be honored. I am suggesting, however, that employees who want to realize the full benefits of their employment have an incumbency of responsibility to understand what their situation is. So anyway, I think that it would behoove us all to be aware of what our rights are, what our privileges are, what is justly due us in the time that it's due, and so to go back and have to fund something like this oversight considering the current situation that the county is in financially is kind of unfortunate. So I hope we can all keep a better heads up to keep our budgetary alignments more accurate. Any public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. 4E, approval of revised job description, Coos Health and Wellness. Mr. Rowley.
Yes, we have a Secretary 3 position that we have updated the job description for. The union has been provided with a copy, and there was just some minor changes for duties.
Okay.
I move we approve the revised job description for Secretary 3 admin/finance services at Coos Health and Wellness.
Second. Any comments? Comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Caroline. Forestry, payment of invoice for pickup purchase.
Hi, Cole.
Good morning, Cole.
Didn't see you hiding back there.
Yeah, just requesting to pay our invoice for a new pickup.
All right.
Okay, we approved one, did we not? Okay.
This
I
is,
move we approve payment of Kendall Ford invoice for a new pickup for forestry in the amount of $56,016.99.
second, and I'll just mention that this was previously approved, it's just that the amount changed a little bit.
Licensing fees were not included in
So,
this. Is all.
that's all. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Juvenile Department, requesting approval of an IGA with Oregon Youth Authority for Individualized Services Agreement 15033. Is Brian here? Nobody here to present
Don't see
on
him.
this? Okay, so we've got an agreement with OYA that allows for reimbursement of services that are made for the youth in an attempt to keep them safely in the community and avoid commitment to OYA. Appropriate services and purchases could include clothing, counseling services, gas money, bus tickets, etc. This contract amount for 2023 to 2025 is $9,932. The county must pay for the expenses and request reimbursement from OYA.
I move we approve IGA, number 15033, formerly IGA 14722, with Oregon Youth Authority for Individualized Services, and ratify the juvenile director's signature on the intergovernmental agreement and document return statement.
Second. And I will point out that this is IGA 15033 formerly, not formally, 14722. Words mean things. Please get your spelling right. Any comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
4H, requesting approval of IGA with Oregon Youth Authority for diversion and basic funding agreement. We'll just run right into this. These funds are used to offset costs for 2 juvenile court counselors. The juvenile crime prevention basic funding is $147,739, and diversion funding is $125,391, for a total of $273,130, with the funding source the State of Oregon, Oregon Youth Authority.
I move that we approve IGA number 15070, formerly IGA number 14700 with Oregon Youth Authority for basic and diversion funding, and ratify juvenile director's signature on the IGA and on the document return statement.
I'll second. Any discussion?
Don't like turning down $273,000.
I was gonna go ahead and jump in, so with both of these contracts, they're approved biannually. They're referencing, former, agreements that, they've had with OYA. I reviewed, both of these, IGAs for changes. There are no substantive changes other than the dates and the amounts, so,
Very
this
good.
is a classic state-funded operation in our interest.
Thank you, Counselor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4I, additional spending authority needed for grant approval on Resolution 2310-231B. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. So we've been applying for a lot of grants. This is another one that came through from the Ford Family Foundation in the amount of $6,313. That cent we'll use for purchasing actually a lot of surveillance equipment is what this is really, as we continue in our efforts to curtail the drug problem that we have. So they're gonna purchase they're called K9 GPS trackers, but what they're really used is for surveilling dealers, drug dealers. Micro GPS tracker, 2 radios, an antenna, and portable audio surveillance equipment. But we have to come to you to request an increase in spending authority as this money goes into the CENT fund. So requesting BOC increase spending authority to CENT in the less than $5,000 equipment line item by $6,313.
I move that we approve and sign Resolution 2310-231B.
Second.
Takes care of that, I think.
Any other discussion or questions, Commissioner?
Again, just to point out to those in the audience, we are very fortunate to have here on the South Coast an agency called the South Coast Interagency Narcotics Team. It used to include most of the communities and both Coos and Curry County. I don't know that we could really call it an interagency team anymore because it's solely funded and works under our county. I'm very proud of the work we do and the fact that we take this on. It's a very important service. I wish others would encourage their cities, and don't anyone hear from Curry County today, but if you know anyone down there, tell them to get going and help us out with this. That everyone benefits, not just people that live in rural Coos County. It's absurd that we're not getting more support.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
4J, Resolution 2310-230B, additional appropriations in the Administrative Grant Fund. Mrs. Treasurer, good morning.
Good morning. On September 19th, the board approved a grant from the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission in partnership with state courts for Coos County Family Treatment Court. This resolution adds the appropriations to the budget so the funds can be spent.
I move we approve and sign Resolution 2310-230B.
Second. Any discussion? Members of the public? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Never get any discussion.
That's because everyone's afraid of you.
We like it that way.
4K, approval of revised job description in the IT department. Mr. Delier, good morning again.
Good morning, Commissioners. Darius Hudelier, Director of Information Technology. So we have an opening in our department, and we're reviewing the job description for that position. We saw that some of the verbiage was outdated, and so we just basically made some minor changes to update some of the versions of technology that we're looking for experience in. And then there was an inconsistency. There was one line that mentioned some supervisory functions, and then down below in the supervisory section it said none. So because we're a small department, we removed that line about the supervisory function.
Okay, very good.
I move we approve the revised job description for an IT administrator.
Second, any discussion, questions, audience? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Darius.
Thank you, Darius.
4L, approval of contract amendment. County Council.
Yeah, this is this is an amendment to one of our contracts with temp agencies. This is Cardinal Services Incorporated. The amendment simply adjusts the rates that we pay them. I took a look, and it's pretty marginal increase to sort of keep up with their cost of service.
The cost didn't go down?
Didn't go down, but didn't seem to go up a whole lot.
Less than candy, for instance.
Yeah, I would have to speak to Carolyn to get the exact numbers.
Okay.
I move we approve and sign the contract amendment with Cardinal Services Incorporated effective January 1, 2024.
Second, discussion, questions, audience? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Move approval of the consent calendar.
Yes, because those are late. Yes. Approval of consent calendar. I have a motion.
I move that.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Late agenda items. We have, in forestry, termination of timber sale contract, item 6A.
So we're requesting to terminate contract BH 322 Gumball Timber Sale and transfer payment of $15,000 to BH 222 Campground Sale.
Make it this. I move that we terminate forestry contract BH 322, which is for the Gumball timber sale, and transfer the payment made to that contract to BH-2-22, which we call the campground sale.
Second. So, the Gumball timber sale is, going to just have to go back out.
It'll go back up for sale, yeah.
Yeah,
The time limit has
expired. Yes.
Yeah, and the logger had made an advance payment.
Right.
We would credit that against another sale.
Right. Okay, and what additional costs are we going to incur remarketing that sale?
Very limited. I mean, it's all the work's been done, so pretty much just at our next auction, we'll just put it up again.
All right. Okay. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Audience? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
6B, transfer of timber sale payments.
So we'd like to transfer funds in the amount of $38,570.66 from timber sale contract BH 621, Progeny timber sale, to BH 22 campground timber sale.
I move that we transfer funds in the amount of $38,570.66 from timber sale contract BH 621, which is the Progeny timber sale, to sale contract BH 2-22, which is the campground sale.
Second.
And can you explain that one to us?
It's kind of the same situation there. Same contractor, and we will once again be able to put that back up for sale, that timber sale. He had actually started on that one and actually did a little bit of logging, but it won't take too much effort to put it back up for sale.
So I'm wondering, what's going on with FTG? Why are they not able to execute on these sales that they committed to?
I think kind of in over his head a little bit. He's got a lot of stuff going on and just couldn't cut it.
Who put him in that situation?
Himself.
So, you know, it doesn't make me happy when we make a deal, you know, that the deal doesn't get followed through on. You know, and I do see that we're moving funds around to accommodate someone else's overcommitment, and yeah, that frankly doesn't make me very happy. So I would rather see. I think we need to think about some kind of commitment. There doesn't seem to be any penalty for lack of execution. I mean, if I make a deal and then I'm not able to do the deal, I mean, if you return something to the store, there's a 15% restocking charge, you know, often. And we did incur costs through, you know, time, effort, practical expense to put these sales out, and then to see them not follow through on, and then you know, we have to use more county resources to move the funds around and even sit here and discuss it. I think is less than ideal, but I'd like to see us in place some kind of penalty aspect for lack of fulfillment on these logging contracts. So let's have that conversation.
We can have that.
Yeah. All right.
And I think our treasurer has something to
Good.
do.
It's my understanding that that is the purpose of the progress payments. So they're paying, and then when they log, they pay the balance. But they're paying throughout the years, the 3 years that they have to cut, to where if they don't cut, those progress payments are essentially placeholders.
So, in the case of this issue that we're discussing right now, $38,570.66, was this a progress payment?
Yes.
So, so the terms of the contract then, if I infer correctly, what you're saying, Megan, is that those funds might be forfeit.
Not necessarily, because they're able to make a claim for work that they have put into the project. And through this agreement, it's actually a waiver or release of rights to sue us for any claims. All they get is the money that they've put into the project.
They're
It's
giving
kinda
up
nice.
potential profits or losses on completing sales.
As for how to deal with this particular contractor going forward, I'm reviewing the Flores chapter on the sale of forest products and grant releases and things. And there's language in here that says when there's doubt as to which of a number of bids is the highest and most advantageous to the county, the decision of the governing body will be made and will be final. And so that language, most advantageous to the county, I think gives us some discretion to pick somebody who maybe hasn't performed, pick somebody else than the person who
Sure.
hasn't performed
Right.
for the county in the past. So there might be some room there.
Right, okay, thank you, Megan. Well, recognizing that there are probably fiscal limitations that are forcing this situation, regardless the reasons behind them, we probably do still need to address our protocols going forward. forward, but
Agreed.
for purposes of this, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are into commissioner reports. Commissioner Sweet?
Yes, I don't know if you noticed, but when you came in, we had put on the table near the entrance a sheet of paper, it looks like this, and it's entitled County Finance Talking Points. The reason I'm bringing this up today is that those of you who were here 2 weeks ago would recall that the board approved our didn't approve actually anything but looking into a tax levy to support public safety. This was brought about by the fact that last year, to balance our budget, given the huge amount of inflation that we've encountered in the last couple of years, we had to take $3.75 million out of an account called American Rescue Plan. These were funds that came to the county during the COVID crisis. We had hoped to use those for improving the efficiencies of the county or adding new services, but we instead had to use them to balance the budget, 85% of which is typically personnel costs. That means going forward that the county will have to figure out a way to replace that $3+ million. One alternative that we're looking at, and in my view, the only one that really is reasonable to do, is to have a public safety tax levy, and we're working on that. I would not expect anyone to improve a tax increase if they thought that the county was not being responsible with taxpayers' money. And I think we have been responsible with taxpayers' money. We saw this coming a year ago. We suggested a public safety levy that at that time it failed, and this is a consequence in part of that. But I'd really like to go over the county finances to give you a brief idea of how frugal I believe this county has been and how financially responsible. So if you have this piece of paper, I'll go down it line item by line item, and there are some numbers on here that mean nothing unless you're very familiar with this, but line 1 is the county's tax rate, and that is $1.58 per $1,000 of assessed value. So if you had a home that was valued at $100,000, number one, you wouldn't be living in much of a place, but just to keep the math simple, what you would pay the county that year out of your total, the money that went out, all the total taxes you paid, which encompass not only the county, but this town you live in, the port districts, the hospital, airport, fire departments, all those things. The county's portion of that would be $1.58 per $1,000 of assessed value. That was what we paid 10 years ago. What you're paying today is $1.28 per $1,000 of assessed value. And with the final payment that the county will make on its emergency radio system, after we receive money from this year's tax collections, your tax rate next year would be $1.08 per $1,000. I dare you to find another county or even another governmental agency in the state whose tax rate next year will be 1/3 of what it was 10 years ago. And that's about what the math is. Let's go to line 2. The $1.08, as I just discussed, is the tax rate, again, in dollars per $1,000 of assessed value that you will pay next year to run the county. The average county's tax rate, as near as I can get to it, in our state is $3.51, which means that what you're paying in taxes to run this county is less than 1/3 of what the average county, or the average citizen in the average county, is charged in the state. Again, I make the point that we're doing a pretty good job, in my mind at least, of holding your tax rates down and being efficient. Line 3, $18 million. 11 years ago, 10 years ago, the county had indebtedness of $18 million. After we make the last payment on the emergency communication system, we will have no indebtedness. Now, some of that 18 million came out of your taxes. Some of it came out of other sources that we developed here in the county. So we didn't have to charge the individual citizens the full board for retiring these debt obligations. Again, I don't know that too many counties in the state are tax-free, or debt-free. The next line, line 4. 10, 11 years ago, we had a $7+ million unfunded liability because of some unclosed landfills. We had 3 of them in the county. We closed them down. We quit adding to them, but we hadn't taken the steps to put a lid on them, make sure they weren't, that the seepage of water through them wasn't contaminating other water sources. We have eliminated that $7 million unfunded liability. What remains is $1 million, but it's the ongoing testing that we have to do for a period of 20+ years after you officially close a landfill before you get final closure. And that $1 million is fully funded by our solid wastes operation, which 10 years ago I would tell you was losing about $400,000 of taxpayer money a year, and now they're not losing money anymore. Line 5, the 0 isn't right, but the $3,500,000 is what we've been able to add to county revenues in the last 10 years from non-property tax sources. In fact, non-tax sources, period. There's not one thing that we did, but we've been able to generate that many non-tax dollars. Now, this does not include the county forest, which incidentally adds another $3 million a year average profits. So let's go to line 6 and show how significant that $3.5 million is. What we take in property tax revenues as a county that go just to operation of the county each year is roughly $6 million. So you can see that if we've been able to generate $3.5 million over the last 10 years of money that comes into the county every year, that it's a good deal. It's taken a lot of work and it's saved a lot of tax dollars. Were it not for that $3.5 million, we'd have $3.5 million fewer county services. or we'd have to have a tax rate that's already $3.5 million, collects $3.5 million more from our citizens than we do now. Line 6, again, $6 million is what the county receives in operating funds from property taxes that almost all of us pay. $140 million, believe it or not, is the total county budget. So we're getting $140 million of services, and I absolutely agree, not everyone uses all the services, but I can almost guarantee you that almost everyone is impacted by all of these services. The huge preponderance of funding for those services comes from the state and federal government, and those dollars are designated to certain things. Two examples would be the tax dollars that you pay for gas, the gas tax dollars, go to the county, to the state, and then some come back to us. Those cannot be used for anything other than roads and road maintenance. We can't use those gas tax dollars to pay for a jail or to pay for road patrol or other, or for the district attorney's office. Same with Medicaid dollars that flow through Coos Health and Wellness and provide medical services for those who can't afford them themselves, either both physical health and mental health. Line 7, $6 million once more is round number of what we take in property taxes to run this county each year. It takes $7 million, more than $7 million, just to run the jail. And then the last line, line 8, 550, that's the number, that's the full-time equivalent this county had in round numbers 10 or 11 years ago, 550 employees. Today we have 350. And were it not for the large build-up of community health services through Medicaid, we'd be more down in the 300 employee range. So these are just indicators. I certainly am willing to discuss them, to show you that the county has done, I think, an amazing job of marshaling your tax dollars and all of our resources and running this county as frugally as possible, yet still delivering the services that counties are formed to deliver. I don't see how we can do that next year, though, without some help. So we'll have more discussions on this, but kind of laying the groundwork so that we're all educated, and so that you know if we do go ahead with a public safety levy, that I hope you understand we're not wasting the money we have. We've done our darnest to make sure we're running this county as frugally as possible. So I thank you for listening. If you don't believe it, I'm certainly happy to talk more about it. I can give you numbers to back it up.
Now, it is a very serious fiscal situation that we face for our next budget cycle. And while I would really prefer to see mechanisms other than a levy that will impact every property owner in the county, and considering that many of our county property owners are ill able to afford increases in their fixed costs like that, the fact does remain that we have to fund this county one way or another, or those services are gonna go away. But I am glad that the levy, when it's proposed, if it's proposed and when it's proposed, it's going to be something that's out as a vote to the people, and you know, let the people decide what our course is going to be. That's what we're here for, is to facilitate that process, and that's the way a representative democracy republic works. Okay.
I have one more thing.
Oh, no.
A little more frivolous than this. A week ago tomorrow, I turned 84, and I got, that's not necessary. I'm gonna tell you about the gift I got from my...
Don't bother clapping, he can't hear you.
I'm gonna tell you about the gift I got from my stepdaughter. I opened up this nice package, and there was a book called Graveyard of the Pacific. I thought she was thinking that I hadn't really planned ahead and was helping me make decisions I'll have to make soon. Then I read, looked into it. It's about the number of shipwrecks on the Columbia River Bar, so it had nothing to do with my age.
You sure there was?
Well, I'm not sure that's really true.
Hidden meaning. All right. Well, happy belated birthday, Commissioner Sweet. Citizen comments. Mr. Thompson, you're up first. Nope, he says no. He'll pass. Mr. Pierce, come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jim. Tim.
Actually, it's Tim. I've been called
Yes.
worse.
Yeah, no, sorry. I know that.
Thank you for, my name's Tim Pierce. I live out on Seven Devils Road, Bandon, near Whiskey Run Lane intersection. Kind of a belated thing about the campground that's going in out there by us there. We kind of missed the boat a little bit perhaps, but I really think that this thing's really a bad choice as far as locations go. Maybe the idea is good, but the location is terrible. The road's narrow, windy. You got people riding bicycles down there on blind curves. They impede the flow of traffic, which is actually illegal under Oregon law. If you're a car, I guess you're exempt if you're on a bicycle. Got a lot of traffic going up and down there as far as trucks, people commuting back and forth. You got people that go from Bandon area all the way to Charleston. They use that way, and of course back and forth. People like myself, I go up the hill. I've been going up that hill for 38 years now. And cut over to 101 on Beaver Hill is 2 miles shorter than going the other way. Just a lot of different things. The road's very, very narrow. If your tire leaves the pavement in a lot of places, you literally go over the side. I've actually seen people go over the side, and I think one of my neighbors just went over the side recently. There's a better location. It's up on the top of the hill. I think Commissioner Sweet pointed out there's no electricity there. Well, that may very well be true, but this would be the opportunity for Coos County maybe to install some solar panels and collect some of that free energy from the sun that we've heard so much about. I've talked to quite a few of my neighbors. You hit them with a series of questions. First question, would you buy the land that you live on now if there was an RV or a park or campground across the road from your property? Every single person said no. I said, would you be for something like that being put across your property? Every single person said no. I said, well, under that guise, how can you be comfortable with them trying to put it across the driveways from 2 of our neighbors? It's going to affect their lives a great deal. I don't know if there's been an environmental impact statement or anything done on this, study or anything, or traffic or this other stuff, but I think that we'd probably be better off putting it up at the top of the hill, getting it off that narrow, windy road. Solar panels is, if there's an electricity issue, that solves it right there. And we hear the government agencies all the time telling us the wonders of solar panels, although the only people I really see with them are government agencies, because the private individual can't afford $35,000 to $40,000. So Anyway, that's basically that on that, but if I got just one moment, I'd like to say something else. I know the county is very fiscally responsible, as best, they do as best they can on a very limited amount of money. But years ago, the World newspaper ran an article about who's employed in Coos County, and it turned out that 49% of all the people that were full-time employed in Coos County were government workers. They work for the cities, the state, the county, the federal government, school teachers. They didn't talk about people like Knife River that would do a lot of work for the government, so that's revenue from them. The problem is the government has no money. So that means that everybody that works in the government has to get their money from people who don't work outside the government, which means 50% of us are supporting two families. And I mean, I understand you guys having a hard time with this money issue. But you gotta realize that all these other people, we can't go and tax people and all this to get more money. We have to figure out somehow of scrounging it ourselves. And I realize the county is in one terrible situation here. I totally get it. I followed the ONC mess over the years and everything else, so I kind of understand that. But you really have to keep in mind that the rest of us out there that don't work for the government, a lot of us have fewer benefits than the government. And I'm thinking, since when does the servant have it better than the master? And I understand this, but I think people need to realize when they're going in, when they go to work for the government, that they're public servants and they're not the master of the people paying the taxes. And that the people paying the taxes surely owe them a living, but they don't owe, they don't owe more than they're getting. And this is something people really need to keep intact, or keep in mind. Anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep. Diane Rich?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Hi, Diane.
It's North Bend. OSU received $2.5 million to determine how people felt about windmills in the South counties, coastal counties. I just wanted to know if there was a way that we could maybe get a group together to help influence our own citizens towards the truth about wind turbines before they're influenced by the psychology department of OSU. So I wondered if maybe we could have a work session to determine maybe how we could talk to our people through the counties, because this is going to make a terrible, terrible problem if, the governor has said that she wants them to go through with a little bit more help from the feds. Hopefully we'll get a new president before that happens, but we need to be working ahead rather than coming from behind. So I'm asking that you have a work session and get some people together so that we can put together some community meetings so the truth actually comes forward about how bad these really are. Others have said you didn't have enough meetings. I know you did. You did all you could. But going forward, we need to have a plan to let our people know how bad these are. And I hope that we can work on some kind of a work schedule to do that.
Thank you. Okay, it's a good idea. Diane, let me ask you real quick. Is it your understanding and assumption then that this $2.5 million granted to OSU for the purpose of this survey is going to be utilized to manipulate public opinion rather than to assess it?
Why would you have your psychology department handle the survey if you weren't going to manipulate? That doesn't make sense. That's why I would do it, would you?
Seems like maybe a math department or
would be the perfect choice
Yeah.
if you were going to do actual analysis.
Right.
But that's not analysis when it's done by the psychology department.
Yeah.
So this is why I say, let's get the teammates that we have within the tribes and within the other organizations. Let's do some community outreach and let them understand what could happen if Bowen actually does this to the ratepayers. And then also we could tell them what's happened in Virginia and in New York, where the ratepayers put in moratoriums and said we will not allow your cables to come across our ground. And the cities and counties joined together with these moratoriums against Bowen. And we're ahead of the game right now. With what you've done, we're way ahead of the game. But we need to keep doing this and keep it in the public eye, because we don't have $2.5 million. You've just explained to us what we have to work with is our energy. So we have to use that energy and make it grow in order to stop this. So, you know, I just suggest that we start some kind of a roadmap, get that planned out a year in advance, and follow up with others and gain a better network.
Very good. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Diane.
I can tell you, Diane, from input I get from other commissioners from other counties along the state, we've already had an impact.
Yes,
Which is good news.
absolutely. Congratulations. Thank you.
Jim Bennett.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Jim Bennett, Whiskey Run Road. Few things. The main thing is, of course, the campground subject. But on two others real quick. The windmill thing is another instrument of societal sabotage. The powers that be know it's not going to work. Also, I've come across some Oregon law that could be an instrument for you guys to prevent the importation of homeless into our community. One of them comes from 1859, and it prohibits paupers, the indigent now, we call them homeless, right? From one county, it prohibits one county, one municipality from transporting paupers to another without notification. Now, I didn't dig deep enough to know whether it requires approval. There's also other laws on the books that if anyone's been convicted of a crime, including a misdemeanor, that person cannot be transferred to another county without notifying you. And again, I don't know if the notification includes your approval, but I think that might be something for our county attorney to maybe look into.
Was that the same ORS as
It's
this?
different. One of them's from 1859. I can send them to you, and the other ones are much more current.
All right.
And you've seen our new homeless that we have at that dirt lot with the boutique hotels being proposed in downtown Bandon. I'm very observant. I've never seen them before. I don't think they're from around here. I do believe they've been imported to our town.
Are you talking about over on?
Across from the fish taco, Tony's, across from Tony's place, that big dirt lot, it's got a couple of homeless encampments there where they're all, they don't look like, I mean, they're all laid out there. So you may take a look at that situation. But anyway, the reason I'm here is for the campground thing. As I've shared, we don't want it. And tongue in cheek, you know, we were thinking about a commissioner quiz for our next election cycle. Let's say there's a fuzzy feel-good project next to a residential area that the people simply don't want, and they cite very legitimate reasons, including public safety. You know, what do you do? And I'm going to remind you that the other campgrounds in the area, you know, are not Bullards and Bassendorf, and what's the other one? Horsefall north of the bridge that caters to the sand toy crowd.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch up there.
Yeah, well, they're not right next to, you know, I don't know any in our area that are right next to residential areas. So a few of the points that I just want to bring up. Mr. Sweet shared a few weeks ago with me that one of the reasons that you like that site is that there's no electricity up on Beaver Hill. But this is the thing. The mountain bike crowd likes their vans. I'm into vans too. I have a Springer. I'm always looking at them. They all have, if you look, they all have solar panels. This isn't the glamping crowd that pulls up a huge fifth wheel with slide outs and wants to plug in and watch the big screen or big motor coaches. This demographic that this project would cater to, they're more into real camping. I think that that sunny area up at the intersection at Beaver Hill, all it would need, it doesn't need to have plug-ins for that crowd. If you could warm water for a shower and have lighting, I believe that would be enough. And, you know, as I've shared, I believe that it could, the tent camping could be a hub for homelessness. And as I've shared with you, Rod, you know, the joke is, Tim calls them outdoorsmen. And it will be difficult for us to visibly discern who is a, you know, a visitor enjoying the outdoors with their bike and their backpack, or a tweaker from Empire, you know, looking for opportunity. So that's part of our concern. And, you know, it's like putting a bike camp on Shingle House Road. You know, I don't think you need to be a civil engineer to look at the site and know that it's simply not appropriate to put bikes. You've got this whole diverse kinds of car and construction trucks and clueless visitors with trailers. And I mean, I come across them, these cyclists, they haven't seen anybody for 3 minutes in a row, and I'll come up on them and they're in the middle of the street looking at their phone. It's just, we don't want it near us at all, but I believe that up at Beaver Hill would work, and it gets a high percentage of sun. And you could sell that site, and it would have residences in it that would pay property taxes. So anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you. There'll be a lot of processes before we go anywhere.
Well, I hope that the process includes the, you know, the burden of notification being on you.
Absolutely.
To send a mailer, because I think that the results of the mailer will bear out what I'm trying to share. That we haven't talked to anybody that's for the project.
Well, I have, but we'll deal with that.
Well, we've talked to about 25 people, not that
That's
many.
fine,
But
that's fine. We'll talk about it. We'll have,
yeah, so anyway, thank you.
Very good. All right, so we'll open it up to any other public comments. If you didn't sign up, anybody have comments you'd like to share?
Yes.
come up.
Okay. Yeah, come on up and introduce yourself.
We appreciate your being
Have
here.
you say, I got you too, Rob. We'll pick you up next.
Okay, no, my name is Scott Rolfe, and I'm here with my wife, and we're guests here, or not guests, we came along with Jim and Tim, and we retired here back in 2018 and lived on pretty near the intersection of Whiskey Run and Seven Devils on a beautiful place, 5 acres. And I guess I should feel good about my property taxes after hearing your report, although sometimes it's hard to. But I digress. We're just here to show our support for with Tim and Jim and mirror what their comments were about the proposed campsite. And we have our concerns too as residents, not just for safety, but also this adversely affects property values down the road if this type of proposal were to take a dark turn later on if it were to go in. And so anyway, I'm just here to show support as a concerned neighbor.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, Rob has a comment.
I want to comment on the windmill situation and kind of follow up where Diane left off. I want to thank you commissioners for passing a proclamation, 2 proclamations opposing the windmills first off. I think you did an excellent job. But I agree with Diane that the fact that OSU is using their psychology department and spending $2.5 million, to me, this sounds like a PsyOps program that's going to be played on the south coast of Oregon, on the people of the south coast of Oregon. And I think the best way to counter this, even though you commissioners have done a great job, is to put an advisory question on the ballot for May, asking people if they oppose or support the windmill project. And I think if they see how many people are opposed to it in a vote, you cannot deny those results. And so I would ask you if you can, because this doesn't cost the county any extra money in an election, this would be the best way to oppose this PSYOPs program that I think OSU is going to try to play on the people of the south coast of Oregon. And your sheriff is an expert in PSYOPs. He would be someone you might want to ask him about this, because I just find it absolutely suspicious that they're using the psychology department to wage this survey. It sounds like almost an experiment. That's my comment.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else in the room or online that wishes to tender comment? Going, gone. Thank you all for being here. We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.